What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. Just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposit to $2,000 and you're guaranteed at 30. And the offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, so as far as the market's going, we're on a slight downtrend right now. We're seeing Tesla dipping a little bit, so are SPY and the QQQ. This is exactly what I said was going to happen in my morning video. I was expecting the market to dip just a bit, but then the question remains, what's going to happen from this point on? So honestly, guys, don't worry too much about the market right now. It's very choppy. There's a slight downtrend, but it's not too serious. What's going to matter a lot more is going to be many different catalysts. The first one is going to be at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the interest rate decision coming out. We're expecting the Fed to keep rates the same. So we'll see what kind of effect this has on the markets. Does it cause a bounce or does the market dip a little bit? And then we have the press conference at 2:30, with Jerome Powell giving a speech. The big guy, Jerome Powell, causes a lot of volatility in the markets, so get ready for what he's about to cause. So it's very interesting because we have all these different catalysts pulling the markets in these directions. Will Jerome Powell cause a little bit of a dump and then a pump, or do we see something very different? Then another catalyst is going to be this right here. We have big tech earnings. We have Tesla announcing earnings after close. So will Meta, Microsoft, and many others. So I went over the news yesterday, what the market's expecting and such. So we'll see what ends up happening with Tesla's earnings. I hope for the best for them. And I just want to say that there's a lot of optimism about their AI developments and what they tell us for 2025. I want to see if they give us like an estimation for when the robotaxi may be coming out. That's going to be very important for the share price. So please keep that in mind. Besides that, the market's on a slight downtrend. Tesla's going to be trying to fight around this 390 area. And then if that does not hold us, the main support, the really important support is actually at like 384 or 200 EMA. If Tesla loses this, there's going to be a risk of dipping even more. And then if Tesla bounces after earnings, just hypothetically, we're going to be looking for an attempt to get back above this yellow trend line. So if we could break that, this is going to be a sign that Tesla wants to reverse from this downtrend sped on. If we break past the yellow trend line right here of resistance, we could be pushing back up for the 420s. So am I guaranteeing anything? The answer is not necessarily. We're just in a like more choppy phase. If you zoom into Tesla and go to like our 5-minute time frame, for example, you guys could see just like the rest of the market, it's choppy, right? Up, down, just lots of this barcode like price action. But then we're on a slight downtrend right now. We're dipping a little bit, so it's no surprise. We could dip a little bit more, all the way down towards like the mid 380s if that ends up being the case. But still, don't worry about it. We'll be waiting to see what happens with Jerome Powell and the Fed, not to mention earnings. So just keep that in mind. So yes, Tesla could dip a little bit more, but don't worry. We'll wait and see what the catalysts end up causing. As far as SPY goes, okay, we're fighting to hold our 20 EMA in the 4-hour time frame around that 602.5 area. We're very choppy right now, but just know the big catalysts are going to be at 2 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. Will the Fed decision cause us to bounce or not? If that's the case, I want to see it try to break past 604. If we break 604, I think we could be trying to fill the gap for 607. And if we end up losing 602 flat, we could be dumping to about 600. I think what's going to happen is SPY is going to see a lot of shuffling between 604 and 602, a lot of sideways price action, but we might decline a little bit more, so there might be a slight dip coming. But I think we're going to see a lot of sideways price action until we get our next catalyst. So I'm not really expecting too much. I would say that if you're holding short dated options, to be a little bit careful because there's going to be a lot of decay in the premiums due to this chop. So please be careful with that. But just know that we're going to likely chop around until we get the Fed decision. So that's just about 3 hours from now. So keep that in mind. QQQ is doing the same thing. My exact prediction was correct about how this would dip to about 520. I mentioned that we could get closer to like the 518s. I don't know if we're going to go that low. We actually touched the 518s, but I think that from this point on, we're just going to see a lot of chop at this point, a lot of choppy price action between 518 and the low 520s, going back and forth and back and forth. The decision could cause us to pump back up, so we'll see what happens when the Fed makes their announcement, or it could cause a rug pull. Then we have Jerome Powell after that, but for now, the market remains very choppy, so keep that in mind. Looking at the Russell 2000, we got this rejection on the 4-hour, but if you zoom in onto our, let me just double check this, the 30 minutes time frame, we're just trading sideways. There could be a small dip right here, very close to about the 225s, but I think we're going to most likely just trade sideways. I don't really expect way too much. So please keep that in mind, guys. There's not really a whole lot that's going on. That's going to be very interesting for how we end up developing. For ES, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. We have a double top that's formed. We want to see if we could try to reclaim 6,080 or not. If we can't, we could be dipping lower towards like 6060. So keep that in mind. There might be a small dip coming to ES. When you look at the 4 hour, we're also looking at that 6060 area as a potential target. So it could dip a little bit more, but then we'll be watching to see, okay, even if we do get that dip, will ES try to base at our 50 EMA and then try to bounce back up like this towards where this gap fill is after we get our decision, or does it lose support and just start breaking down towards the low 6,000s? It could go either way depending on the decision, but I hope that we hold support at 66 and try to bounce. We'll see if that ends up being the case. It's the same thing with NQ. We're trying to base right here at 21,400. I did predict this would dip as well. We'll see if we get a bounce here. We have a gap to fill up here, so I'm hoping we get some kind of bounce to fill that gap. Maybe the decision could cause that Jerome Powell. We'll see about that just to be safe, so keep that in mind. Bitcoin dipped a little bit. The main support to watch was at 101,000, and we have resistance at 102,400. So I anticipate that. So we're going to likely just trade sideways here. We have like a double top. It's not really doing much. Nvidia came down exactly as predicted. I was talking about 123 being tested, if not lower. It's okay though because we're still not losing the lows from yesterday. We're still holding 117. So I want to make it very clear: as long as we're above 117 to 120, this has potential to try to bounce again. If we lose that range, I would become a little bit more concerned. As of right now, it could look like that this is going to try to make like a higher low before it tries to bounce. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. Once again, Tesla is dipping a bit. It's still range bound. Apple has a very interesting setup. It's very resilient compared to the market. We're watching to see, is Apple about to form a left shoulder ahead and then a right shoulder? Is Apple about to see a bounce here to start breaking out? Or is Apple about to do something very different? Is this about to reject really, really hard? So watch and see. Does Apple lose the support right here around the 232 area and start dipping below 230? Or do we hold 232 at the very least and start bouncing for a nice inverse head and shoulders breakout? We'll see, guys. It depends on FOMC and the earnings coming out for tomorrow. Coinbase is very choppy. I want to see if we can reclaim 285 to turn bullish, or if it loses 280 to turn down. It's just range bound right now, so it's not really doing much. Amazon had resistance, at 240, and our support to watch for is going to be at this 236 area, so we're stuck in this range. We'll see if we break 240 to run more, but I think we're just going to be range bound for now before anything else. For Meta, we're looking at this resistance around this 678 area, and then we have support at 665. If that fails us, we could be dipping closer to about the 654 area. I'm not really too worried about that. I think Meta's going to shop around until we get earnings. Earnings is going to be big for them. I do want to give you a warning though. Although it's been running very nicely and analysts are very optimistic about earnings, there's a saying that goes by: the rumors sell the news. So be a little bit careful with this, considering that. Not financial advice when I say that, but just keep that in mind. Just be a little bit careful. Microsoft has this resistance at 448. If we break this, we're looking for 452. Our support's at 439. So I think we just chop between like 444 and 440, pretty much. Not really doing much. Google is range bound here. If we had held above 198, we'd be looking for that gap fill for like the low 200s. We did not hold 198. We're coming back down. So we have this support at 196.7, and also the next support's at 195. We'll see if these levels hold or not, but just keep that in mind. The VIX is trying to rebound here. Is the VIX about to get a big bounce, or is the VIX going to like push a little bit higher as the market dips, then get a rejection, start dipping to fill that gap? I don't know for sure, guys. Sometimes you never know, so you want to be very careful. There was an instance right here where the VIX had this like gap to fill. It pushed, it came back down, but then it did not fill that gap until like a couple of weeks. So sometimes it does unexpected things. So we'll see if we're about to fill this gap or not. If we break structure right here at 16, I think we're going to be like filling that gap. That would be a bullish signal. We haven't done that yet, so we have to wait and see. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. The market's going to see a lot of chop, a lot of sideways price action. Tesla's doing the same thing, essentially. We're just waiting for FOMC and then Tesla's earnings after that. So watch and see how things end up going. I thank you for listening, guys. Have a good day and peace out.